You want to know what a billion-dollar defense system sounds like when it dies? It doesn't scream. It just goes quiet. I was sitting in my truck outside Titan Defense Corporation at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, watching through my laptop as Sentinel locked itself down in front of a room full of Pentagon generals. The countdown hit 0, the screens went dark, and Rick Caldwell's career imploded in real time. The best part? He had no idea I was watching, or that I'd triggered the whole thing from my parking spot 12 blocks away. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to 3:47 a.m. that same morning when my phone buzzed with the kind of alert that makes your blood run cold. My name's Marcus Reynolds, but everyone calls me Mac. 47 years old, divorced dad, 16 years in Army Cyber Command before I got into private sector cybersecurity. I'd been senior cybersecurity architect at Titan Defense Corporation for 4 years, and Sentinel wasn't just my job, it was my life's work. The most advanced cyber defense platform the government had ever seen, protecting 892 critical infrastructure facilities from every hacker from Beijing to Moscow. That Tuesday morning started like most others. I was in my home office at 3:47 a.m., monitoring the overnight threat feeds when Sentinel's AI flagged something that made me sit up straight. Cozy Bear, Russian military intelligence, was probing the control systems at a water treatment plant serving 300,000 people in Ohio. The attack signature matched patterns I'd studied during my deployment to Fort Gordon, when I'd watched North Korean hackers shut down a power grid in South Korea. 47 people died when hospital life support failed during the 6-hour blackout. That's exactly why I built Sentinel, to never let that happen on American soil. The Russians were good, I'll give them that. They'd been inside the Ohio system for maybe 6 hours, mapping the network topology, looking for the critical control nodes that managed chemical injection rates. One wrong command and they could have poisoned the drinking water for 500,000 Americans. But Sentinel was better. I watched the AI identify 17 different intrusion vectors, isolate the compromised endpoints, and deploy countermeasures that locked the attackers out before they could execute their payload. The whole thing took 19 minutes from detection to complete resolution. Another crisis averted, another sleepless night protecting infrastructure that American families depend on without even thinking about it. This wasn't the first time I'd stopped something like this. Last year it was Chinese hackers trying to manipulate the control systems at a natural gas pipeline in Texas. 6 months before that, Iranian cyber units attempting to disrupt the electrical grid serving a children's hospital in Pennsylvania. Each time Sentinel had done exactly what I designed it to do: detect, isolate, neutralize. The system had prevented 31 major cyber incidents in the past 4 years, and most people would never even know how close we'd come to disaster. By 6:30 a.m., I was on my second cup of coffee and reviewing the incident report when my son Luke wandered into the kitchen. 16 years old, straight-A student, starting pitcher on his high school team, and the reason I got up every morning to do this job. He grabbed a protein bar and glanced at my laptop screen showing the threat analysis dashboard. "Dad, you're always up early working on that computer stuff. What exactly do you do again?" I looked at him. This kid who took electricity and clean water and internet connectivity completely for granted, the way kids should be able to. "I make sure the lights stay on when people need surgery, son. Make sure the water treatment plants work when kids need clean water. Make sure the bad guys can't shut down the things that keep American families safe." Like video game hackers? More like foreign governments trying to hurt Americans. Remember when I was deployed overseas before you were born? Same mission, different battlefield. Instead of protecting soldiers, now I protect the power plants and hospitals and water systems that keep our whole country running. Luke nodded, grabbing his baseball gear for morning practice. "That's pretty cool, Dad. My government teacher says cyber warfare is going to be the biggest threat of our generation." Your teacher's right. That's why guys like me work nights and weekends to stay ahead of it. After Luke left for school, I drove to the Titan building thinking the day would be routine. Maybe a few more threat assessments, some code reviews with my team, possibly a briefing on the Pentagon contract renewal. The meeting was supposed to be about expanding Sentinel's capabilities, maybe adding new predictive algorithms for zero-day exploits that we hadn't seen before. My core team, Kelly Martinez, Brad Wilson, and Amy Foster, had been with me since the beginning. Kelly was probably the smartest programmer I'd ever worked with, could write code that made other engineers weep with envy. Brad had 15 years of experience in network security before joining us, and Amy could analyze attack patterns like she was reading a grocery list. Together, we'd built something that protected nearly 1,000 critical facilities across the country. Instead of the technical meeting I expected, I found Rick Caldwell pacing behind his mahogany desk like a caged animal, sweating through his $5,000 Italian suit despite the office air conditioning running full blast. Max, sit down. We need to talk about operational efficiency. Corporate speak, for we're about to mess with your life. I'd heard that phrase before in my Army days when some Pentagon desk jockey wanted to replace experienced soldiers with cheaper contractors who'd never seen actual combat. I've brought in a consultant, Rick continued, someone who understands the modern marketplace, the new economy, someone who can help us modernize our approach to client engagement. That's when she walked in. Sophia Caldwell, Rick's 26-year-old niece, dressed like she was heading to a fashion photo shoot instead of a defense contractor's office. I knew her from Instagram, 400,000 followers watching her drink green smoothies and pose with designer handbags in front of sports cars she didn't pay for. "Uncle Rick says you're going to show me the ropes," she chirped, already pulling out her phone to record. This is so exciting. I'm thinking we could do a whole series. Behind the scenes at a defense company. My followers would totally love authentic content like this. The engagement rates on defense tech content are actually really good right now. I looked at Rick, trying to process what I was hearing. You want me to train her on Sentinel? Sophia has fresh perspectives, Mac. She graduated summa cum laude in digital communications from USC. The board thinks new blood is exactly what we need to modernize our approach, especially with the younger demographic. New blood. Right. What they needed was someone who understood that Sentinel wasn't some smartphone app you could figure out over the weekend. This was 12 layers of military-grade encryption protecting the backbone of American infrastructure. This was the system that had just stopped Russian hackers from poisoning Ohio's water supply 6 hours ago. I'm swamped with the Pentagon security review, I said, trying to keep my voice level. Maybe someone from the training department could help her get oriented to basic company policies first. Rick's face went hard. This isn't a request, Mac. It's a direct order. Sophia needs to understand our core systems architecture so she can help us communicate our capabilities to a broader market. The defense industry is changing and we need to change with it. I'd been in the Army long enough to recognize when someone was giving you an order they knew was wrong. The kind of order that gets good soldiers killed because some officer cared more about politics than protecting his people. The kind of order that put quarterly earnings ahead of operational security. I can't do that, Rick. The words hung in the air between us. Sophia kept recording with her phone, probably thinking this was great drama for her social media audience. Can't or won't. His voice dropped to that dangerous quiet that officers use right before they destroy your career. Won't, I said. Rick, Titan Sentinel isn't some smartphone app you can figure out over a weekend. It's 12 layers of military-grade encryption protecting the backbone that keeps American hospitals running and power plants operational. You don't hand classified defense protocols to social media consultants, no matter who their uncle is. Classified, Mac, we're not dealing with actual classified material here. The system architecture, the threat detection algorithms, the response protocols? Rick, if someone with bad intentions got their hands on how Sentinel actually works, they could reverse engineer vulnerabilities that would compromise every facility we protect. We're talking about children's hospitals, water treatment plants, electrical grids serving millions of people. I thought about this morning's incident in Ohio. If the Russians had known exactly how Sentinel detected their intrusion, they could have modified their approach. Instead of protecting 300,000 people, we might have been cleaning up after a mass poisoning event. Rick's hand moved to his desk phone intercom. Send security up here, now. Mac Reynolds, he said, his voice cold as a Michigan winter. Your refusal to follow direct orders and adapt to our evolving business model shows you're no longer aligned with company objectives. You're terminated, effective immediately. Security escort, 15 minutes to pack my personal belongings. The whole routine. But here's what Rick didn't know. I'd been planning for this exact scenario since the day I started building Sentinel. See, when my ex-wife Sarah got breast cancer 3 years back, the medical bills nearly wiped us out. Even with insurance, the treatments cost us everything we'd saved for Luke's college fund. That's when I set up Reynolds Tech Solutions LLC with my mom, Betty, as the primary stakeholder. Every patent, every piece of core architecture, every critical component that made Sentinel actually work was filed under that LLC, not Titan. Perfectly legal, perfectly planned, and about to become Rick's worst nightmare. The cancer fight lasted 18 months. Sarah beat it, thank God. But not before we'd burned through our savings, taken out a second mortgage, and maxed out every credit card we had. The financial stress contributed to our divorce. She couldn't handle the uncertainty, the late nights I was working to rebuild our finances, the constant worry about Luke's future. But those sleepless nights taught me something valuable. Never put all your eggs in someone else's basket. That's why every innovation I created for Sentinel was actually owned by my family's LLC, licensed to Titan under very specific terms. Tony Rodriguez and Mike Patterson walked me down to my office. Two good guys who'd both served overseas and knew this whole situation stunk. Tony had done 3 tours in Afghanistan before joining Titan's security team. Mike was Navy, spent 8 years on destroyers before transitioning to corporate security. Both of them understood what it meant to serve something bigger than yourself. In the elevator, I filled them in on what was really happening. "They're selling us out, boys," I said quietly. "Rick's got meetings scheduled with foreign investors next week. Wants to license Sentinel technology to whoever writes the biggest check. Chinese venture capital firms, Russian oligarchs, doesn't matter as long as the money's good." Tony's jaw tightened. He'd lost 3 buddies to an IED that detonated because Chinese-manufactured communication equipment had been compromised by backdoors. "Sir, that's not right. This system protects American infrastructure." Mike just shook his head. "Corporate types don't understand what's at stake. They see dollar signs, not the people who get hurt when security fails." My office looked exactly the same as it had 2 hours earlier when I'd been a respected senior architect instead of an escorted security risk. Pictures of Luke at his baseball games lined my desk. Him sliding into home plate at last month's regional championship, getting his MVP trophy, both of us at a Rangers game last summer. There was my old unit photo from Fort Gordon, the original Sentinel development team, working 20-hour days in that converted warehouse we'd rented, and my coffee mug that Luke had given me for Father's Day, world's okayest dad. 15 minutes to pack up 4 years of my professional life. I grabbed the personal stuff first. Photos, the mug, that small American flag Luke had made me in 3rd grade. But what I really needed was already in my jacket pocket, a USB drive that looked like any other storage device but contained something Rick had never bothered to investigate. That drive held the original patent filings, the licensing agreements, and most importantly, the administrative keys to Sentinel's deepest security protocols. Level 19, I called it. My insurance policy. Kelly Martinez appeared in my doorway, her face flushed like she'd been running. "Mac, what the hell is happening?" "Brad just texted me that security escorted you out of the conference room. Rick decided that Sophia Caldwell should learn how to operate Sentinel so she can help market it to a broader audience," I said, continuing to pack my personal items. I explained why that was a terrible idea. He explained why my opinion no longer mattered. "You're kidding me. Sophia, the Instagram girl? She doesn't know the first thing about cybersecurity." That's what I told Rick. Apparently, my commitment to operational security is incompatible with their new business model. Amy Foster and Brad Wilson appeared behind Kelly, both looking like someone had just told them their favorite restaurant was closing. These 3 had been with me since we'd started building Sentinel. They'd worked nights and weekends, missed family dinners, turned down higher-paying jobs at Google and Microsoft because they believed in what we were doing. They deserved better than watching their life's work get handed over to someone who thought cybersecurity was a good backdrop for TikTok videos. "What happens to Sentinel?" Brad asked. "What happens to all the facilities we're protecting?" I looked at my team. 3 of the most talented engineers I'd ever worked with, people who'd sacrificed personal time and family commitments to build something that actually mattered. "Sentinel's going to be fine," I said. "Better than fine, actually. But not here. Not under management that thinks national security is a marketing opportunity." "Don't take any company property," Sophia announced from my doorway, still recording with her phone like this was all some reality show episode. "Uncle Rick said you people always try to steal stuff when you get fired. You people." Like I was some kind of criminal instead of the guy who'd spent 4 years keeping her comfortable lifestyle safe from the people who wanted to destroy everything she took for granted. "Everything I need is right here," I said, patting my jacket pocket where the USB drive sat next to my truck keys. Kelly stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Mac, whatever you're planning, we want in. This whole thing is wrong, and we all know it." "Storm incoming," I said quietly, using the code phrase we developed during late-night incident responses. "Batten down the hatches. Watch the 10 a.m. demo real careful." The walk to the elevator was the longest walk of my life. Tony and Mike flanked me like honor guards, both of them looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. As the elevator doors closed, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my core team, Level 19 protocol active. Monitor from external access. Document everything. Kelly texted back immediately. What did you do, Mac? Nothing yet, but they're about to find out what happens when you mess with American defense infrastructure. My F-150 had never felt more like a mobile command center. I fired up my laptop right there in the Titan parking garage and logged into Sentinel's administrative interface, not through the company network, but through the back channels I'd built into the system from day one. The screen came to life with a simple message. Welcome, System Architect. All systems operational. Security Level 19 armed and ready. Level 19. While Rick and his board had been celebrating each new government contract I'd delivered, I'd been quietly building something they didn't even know existed. A dead man's switch wired directly into Sentinel's heart. The logic was elegant in its simplicity. If the primary system architect's employment status changed to terminated without proper security clearance transfer protocols, Sentinel would automatically lock down everything. No access, no demonstrations, no billion-dollar contracts until the ownership dispute got resolved through proper legal channels. I checked my watch. 8:47 a.m. Rick's big Pentagon demonstration was scheduled for 10 a.m. sharp. He'd have a conference room full of generals and defense contractors watching him show off technology he thought belonged to him. Time to teach him the difference between licensing something and owning it. I activated the protocol with a single keystroke. Sentinel began its countdown, 1 hour, 13 minutes, 0 seconds, and ticking down steadily. 73 minutes until Rick's world came apart at the seams. My phone buzzed. Luke, texting from his morning break between classes. Dad, saw some weird stuff online about your company trending. Everything cool? I smiled as I typed back. Everything's better than cool, son. Your old man just reminded some people why they shouldn't mess with guys who actually know how to build things. Haha, awesome. Can't wait to hear the story. Gotta get to chemistry class. That kid. 16 years old, straight A student, starting pitcher on his high school team, and smart enough to probably run circles around half the executives at Titan. I was doing this as much for his future as anything else. I drove downtown to Walter Pierce's law office. Walter had handled the Reynolds Tech Solutions LLC paperwork 3 years ago, and he'd been waiting for this phone call ever since. During Sarah's cancer treatment, when we were drowning in medical bills and I was working 80-hour weeks trying to keep us afloat, Walter had suggested the LLC structure as a way to protect my intellectual property from potential creditors. Smart man, smarter than he knew at the time. Mac, he said as his secretary showed me into his corner office. I heard about your employment status change. Ready to discuss your options? Through his floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the Titan building 15 blocks away. Up on the 35th floor, Rick was probably making final preparations for his demo, completely unaware that in exactly 1 hour and 12 minutes, his billion-dollar defense contract was going to explode like an IED in downtown Baghdad. Let's talk about what happens when that countdown hits 0, I said. At exactly 10 a.m., the Titan conference room had been transformed into what looked like a military command center. 3 massive screens displayed Sentinel's interface in high-definition glory, while the company's remaining engineers stood ready at support stations. The Pentagon evaluation team sat around the polished conference table, 4 generals, 6 defense contractors, and enough combined authority to control more firepower than most small countries. Rick stood at the head of the table, looking like he owned the world. Sophia sat beside him with her tablet, live streaming the whole thing to her followers with captions like, "Taking Uncle's company to the next level. Hashtag defense tech, hashtag girl boss." Ladies and gentlemen, Rick began, his practiced presentation voice echoing off the conference room walls. What you're about to see isn't just cybersecurity software. It's the future of American defense infrastructure, streamlined for the global marketplace and ready for international partnerships. International partnerships. There it was, the real plan. Rick wasn't just trying to modernize Titan's marketing approach. He was positioning to sell American defense technology to foreign buyers. The same technology that had stopped Russian hackers from poisoning Ohio's water supply 12 hours ago. He nodded to the demonstration engineer, some kid fresh out of MIT who'd been hired to replace Brad Wilson after I'd recommended Brad for a raise 6 months ago. The kid started typing commands and the screens flickered to life with Sentinel's initialization sequence. Everything looked perfect for exactly 12 seconds. Then the first error message appeared. System architect authentication required. The MIT kid frowned, typing faster. Just a minor authentication glitch, sir. Let me reset the connection. Access denied. Employment verification failed. What's the problem? Rick's voice carried that edge that officers get when their carefully planned battle strategy starts falling apart in real time. I'm not sure, sir. The system is requesting architect-level credentials that don't seem to exist in our current database. The screens flashed red. A bigger message appeared. Security lockdown initiated. Time remaining, 0 hours, 47 minutes, 32 seconds. Contact system administrator for resolution. The Pentagon team exchanged those looks that senior military officers perfect over decades of dealing with contractors who overpromise and underdeliver. General Patricia Morrison, who'd been evaluating defense systems since before Rick got out of business school, leaned forward with the expression of someone who'd just watched a $1 million missile miss its target by 3 miles. "Mr. Caldwell," she said in that steel trap voice that had probably terrified junior officers for the past 20 years, "is there a problem with your system?" "No problem at all, General Morrison. Just a routine security protocol that will have resolved momentarily." Rick turned to Glenn Hoffman, the guy they'd promoted to CTO about 30 seconds after my security escort ended. "Fix this, now." Glenn's fingers flew across his keyboard, sweat beading on his forehead like he was trying to defuse an actual bomb. "Sir, I can't access the core systems. There's something here about security level 19, but I've never seen that protocol before." "Level 19? What the hell is level 19? Nobody in that room knew the answer, which was exactly the point. The countdown kept ticking. 0 hours, 43 minutes, 17 seconds. 00:43:16, 00:43:15. "Get Mac Reynolds on the phone," Rick barked at his assistant. "Sir, he was terminated this morning per your direct orders." "I don't care if he was terminated. Get him on the line anyway." The call went straight to my voicemail, the professional recording I'd set up specifically for this moment. "You've reached Marcus Reynolds. I'm currently unavailable, but if this is regarding Sentinel system architecture, please consult your existing licensing agreements and employment contracts. Thanks for calling and have a great day." General Morrison stood up slowly, gathering her materials with the deliberate movements of someone who just wasted 3 hours of her valuable time. "Mr. Caldwell, it appears you have significant internal issues that need resolution. We'll need to postpone this demonstration indefinitely." "Wait, please, General. This is just a minor technical issue that we can resolve in minutes." "Minor?" The General's voice could have frozen fire. "Your core defense system is completely inaccessible during a billion-dollar contract evaluation. Your marketing representative is live streaming our classified discussion to social media. And apparently the only person who can fix this crisis is someone you fired 3 hours ago." She headed for the door, her team following like a well-disciplined unit retreating from a compromised position. "We'll be in touch, maybe." The Pentagon team filed out in crisp formation, leaving behind a conference room that felt like a tomb. The countdown hit 0 hours, 15 minutes, and Sophia's live stream was capturing every second of the disaster for her hundreds of thousands of followers. "Uncle Rick," she whined, finally lowering her phone as the magnitude of the situation started penetrating her social media bubble like, "Can't we just hire him back or something?" Rick turned on her with the kind of fury that would have made a drill sergeant proud. "Get out, now, and turn that damn phone off." She fled the room, her designer heels clicking rapidly down the hallway. But the damage was already done. Her live stream had broadcast Titan's complete humiliation to the world. The hashtag #DefenseFail was trending within minutes, and defense industry reporters were already calling for comment. When the countdown finally reached 0, all 3 screens went dark simultaneously. Then a single message appeared in bold white letters: "Sentinel system in protective mode. All access revoked. For licensing inquiries, please contact Reynolds Tech Solutions, LLC. Authorized representative Betty Reynolds." In the span of 2 hours, Rick Caldwell had lost everything. The Pentagon contract was dead. Titan's stock price was in free fall as news of the failed demonstration spread through defense industry circles. And Sentinel, the crown jewel technology that justified the company's entire valuation, was locked behind digital walls that only I controlled. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree with missed calls from Titan's legal team. Walter Pierce texted me from his office. 15 attempts to reach you in the past hour. Should I return their calls? Let them sweat until after lunch, I texted back. I'm busy, but the real entertainment was just getting started. My laptop showed 37 attempts to hack into Sentinel in the past 2 hours. IP addresses from all over the world. Romania, North Korea, Russia, even a couple from somewhere in Belarus. Rick had apparently gone straight to the dark web, throwing money at hackers like a desperate gambler doubling down on a losing hand. Each attack failed before it could even touch Sentinel's first layer of encryption. They were trying to break down a door that didn't exist. Level 19 wasn't something you could hack. It was a logic gate that made Sentinel forget it existed without proper authorization codes. Around noon, my phone rang. Glenn Hoffman, sounding like a man who'd just watched his career go up in flames. Mac, this is Glenn. Look, I know what happened this morning was unfortunate, but we need your help here. The entire system is down, and frankly, none of us understand the architecture well enough to troubleshoot it. System's working fine, Glenn. It's just not working for you. Come on, Mac. We both know this is about more than just your termination. You're absolutely right. It's about Rick trying to sell American defense technology to foreign investors. It's about replacing experienced engineers with social media consultants. It's about putting quarterly profits ahead of protecting the infrastructure that keeps American families safe. There was a long silence on the line. When Glenn spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. The board is willing to negotiate. Full reinstatement, back pay, promotion to vice president of engineering. We can even discuss equity options. Too late for negotiations, Glenn. I've already got a better offer. That afternoon, I found myself in the executive offices of Pinnacle Strategic Group, sitting across from Amanda Torres in a conference room that overlooked half the city. Amanda was the kind of woman who'd been making billion-dollar deals since before the internet existed, and she had the reputation to prove it. She'd called me personally after hearing about the Pentagon demonstration disaster. Reynolds, she said, studying me over her coffee cup. I've had a very interesting day. General Morrison called me personally after the Titan demonstration. In 30 years of defense contracting, she said she's never witnessed such a spectacular system failure. Titan disappointed her. No, she smiled with the sharpness of a combat knife. Rick Caldwell disappointed her. Titan is just office space and furniture. What we were interested in was Sentinel technology. And Sentinel, our legal team discovered this morning, was never really Titan's to sell in the first place. She slid a tablet across the polished table. The screen displayed the original Reynolds Tech Solutions LLC Incorporation documents, with my mother's name prominently listed as primary stakeholder. Our attorneys have been busy since 11 a.m., Amanda continued. Every patent, every core innovation that makes Sentinel valuable, it all traces back to your LLC. Titan has been licensing technology they never actually owned. They had full usage rights, I said carefully, as long as certain employment conditions were maintained. Conditions that were violated at 8:03 this morning. Her smile could have cut glass. So tell me, Mac, what exactly do you want? This was the moment I had been preparing for since I'd walked out of that Titan building with security guards at my elbows. I want to build the company Titan should have been. American-owned, veteran-operated, focused on protecting our country's infrastructure instead of selling it to whoever writes the biggest check. You want control. I want purpose. Sentinel can be more than just profitable. It can be the shield that stands between American families and the people who want to hurt them. But only if it's developed correctly, ethically, with people who understand what's really at stake. Amanda leaned forward, her business instincts fully engaged. Pinnacle Strategic was prepared to invest $2 billion in acquiring Sentinel from Titan. That offer is obviously dead, but the technology still exists and we still want access to it. She slid another document across the table. The signing bonus number at the bottom made me pause and read it twice. That's just the signing bonus, Amanda said casually. Your salary as chief architect would be separate, plus comprehensive medical coverage for your entire family. We take care of our people, Mac. I thought about Luke, about the future I wanted to build for him in a world where cyber warfare was becoming as dangerous as conventional weapons. I thought about my core team at Titan, Kelly, Brad, Amy, brilliant engineers trapped under incompetent leadership. I thought about Rick's arrogance and Sophia's complete ignorance of what she'd been playing with. I have conditions. I wouldn't respect you if you didn't. First, I bring my team. Kelly, Brad, Amy, the people who actually built Sentinel with me. They deserve to see their work succeed under proper leadership. Done. Second, Sentinel security protocols are non-negotiable. No backdoors for anyone, including government agencies, unless they follow proper legal channels. We protect everyone equally, or we protect no one at all. Agreed. Third, this launch needs to be public. When we announce Reynolds Cyber Defense, I want the entire defense community to know exactly who built this technology and who tried to steal it from American engineers. Amanda actually laughed out loud. Mac, I like your style. Yes, we can definitely arrange that kind of public launch. We spent the next 2 hours working through details, with Amanda's legal team joining us via video conference. By 5 p.m., the framework was complete. Reynolds Cyber Defense would be incorporated by morning, the patents would transfer smoothly from my mother's LLC, and Rick Caldwell would wake up tomorrow to discover his company was worth about as much as a used pickup truck with transmission problems. The news broke at 6:45 p.m., spreading through defense industry circles like wildfire. Titan Defense loses core technology in employment dispute. Pentagon contract terminated after system failure. Former military engineer controls billion-dollar defense platform. I was at home, grilling burgers for Luke and me, our usual Tuesday night ritual, when Rick's desperate phone call came through. "Mac, this is Rick. We need to talk." "Now, nothing to discuss, Rick. You made your choice this morning when you decided to fire the guy who built everything you needed to stay in business. The board is willing to discuss terms. Reinstatement, equity stake, complete autonomy over technical decisions. Whatever you want." I flipped a burger and listened to the fat sizzle on the grill. "I already have what I want, Rick. You've destroyed everything I built over the past decade." "No, Rick. You destroyed it yourself the moment you chose cost-cutting over competence, social media consultants over experienced engineers, and foreign investors over American security interests. I just refuse to go down with your sinking ship." "This isn't over, Reynolds." "Yeah, it is. Reynolds Cyber Defense launches tomorrow morning. Maybe Sophia can live stream you trying to explain to your board how you lost $1 billion defense contract because you fired the only guy who actually understood the technology." I hung up and immediately blocked the number. Luke came out to the deck, still wearing his baseball uniform from after-school practice. "Dad, you seem different tonight. Happier, but also kind of, I don't know, more relaxed." I looked at my son, 16 years old, growing up in a world where cyber attacks could shut down power grids and foreign governments spent billions trying to steal American technology secrets. A world where his father's work might be all that stood between his future and digital chaos. "I am different, Luke. This morning I was working for someone who didn't value what I brought to the table, who was willing to compromise everything I'd built for short-term financial gains. Tonight I work for myself, building something that actually matters for your generation." "Is that good for us?" "Yeah, son, that's very good for our family. Because in America, sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something better and showing everyone what real leadership looks like." They fired me at 8:03 a.m. for refusing to compromise